President Biden taking a moment in his State of the Union speech to address plans to lower food costs for Americans. The president voicing the administration's efforts to crack down on shrinkflation. Take a listen.
Too many corporations raise prices to pad their profits, charging more and more for less and less. That's why we're cracking down on corporations that engage in price gouging and deceptive pricing, from food to healthcare to housing. In fact, the snack companies think you won't notice if they change the size of the bag and put a hell of a lot fewer, same size bag, put fewer chips in it. No, I'm not joking. It's called shrinkflation. Pass Bobby Casey's bill and stop this. I really mean it.
Here with more on what this means for the grocery landscape, we want to bring in Scott Moses. He's Salomon Partners, head of grocery, pharmacy, and restaurants, along with Yahoo Finance's Madison Mills. Great to have both of you here. Scott, let's talk about what we heard from the president last night. His focus was on shrinkflation, but it really gets to the heart of the matter, and that is the fact that millions of Americans are still paying much more for groceries than they were a year ago, than they were a couple of years ago pre-pandemic. Grocery prices are actually up 25% higher than they were in 2019. Are Americans going to see any relief at the grocery store soon?
Well, first, thanks for having me. And I agree. Look, food inflation has been a real challenge for all of us. We should focus on the real causes. So COVID, supply chain, various ecological shortages around the world, that brought food inflation to over 8% in February of 22. The Ukraine war brought it to 13.5% later that summer, and we all felt that. But the food manufacturers have been exacerbating matters by continuously taking price increases, and they talk about it freely in their earnings reports. And with shrinkflation, like the president said, we all feel cheated. Now, conversely, Kroger's business model is literally to lower prices. They've got a 20-year track record systematically investing over $5 billion to lower prices for customers, both company-wide and with acquisitions like Harris Teeter and Roundy's. And with the Albertsons merger, Kroger's clearly committed to lower prices by several $100 million more day one. So the merger is going to help millions of families across the country fight food inflation at the checkout line.
Scott, we should also mention that you are consulting on the Kroger Albertsons potential deal as well. But having said that, I want to get more of your thoughts on this idea of price gouging. You mentioned that they're bringing it up in their earnings reports, but it makes sense in a capitalist world that companies are going to raise prices to whatever the market will bear. So given that condition, if you were advising the president or someone running for office right now, what would your advice be to them to get grocery prices lower, given that grocers don't have an incentive to lower prices just because consumers want them lower?
Well, my advice would be to let transactions or companies who've got a long track record of lowering prices continue to do that, right? Our grocery industry has changed radically over the last 20 years. 20 years ago, 10 of the top 15 American grocers were supermarket grocers. Today, there are only 5 of the top 15. The other 10 are national discount grocers like Walmart, Target, Costco, Amazon, and Whole Foods, Aldi, and Trader Joe's, Dollar General. And those guys have got 60% market share, and that is rising fast. So in order for supermarket grocers to continue to lower prices, they sometimes need to get bigger so they can have remotely the scale that some of those larger national discount grocers have got. Because I'll tell you, in the long run, those national discount grocers who now have got over 60% share, they pose an existential threat to supermarket grocers, just like they've done with department stores. And that's not theory. We've all seen this over the last 20 years.
What is the way that, and I mean, even as you're talking about their ability to compete against an Amazon, a Target, a Walmart, and Amazon for their own right, going out and purchasing Whole Foods back in 2017, $13.7 billion, you think about their ambition to really make sure that they cement themselves within that grocery landscape. For a Kroger or an Albertsons, what is the opportunity that they have to even continue as a business in the same way that we've known them to this point if this deal is not consummated?
Well, you are absolutely right by pointing out the wide difference. So let's go through a few examples. So Walmart is the world's #1 grocer by a very, very wide margin, and they've got about 30% share here in the United States. They're 3 times the size of Kroger, 3 times Costco, 5 times Albertsons or Amazon, and roughly as large as all 4 of those companies combined. Its next 4 competitors. So Walmart clearly dominates U.S. grocery. It's twice as big as Kroger and Albertsons will be combined. Then there's Costco, the world's number 2 grocer, number 3 in the U.S., just behind Kroger. Most of what they sell are groceries, and 40% of American households are Costco members. And the average Costco store does 5 times the grocery sales of the average supermarket grocer. And then, like you said, there's Amazon and Whole Foods, the world's number 4 grocer, number 5 in the U.S., soon to be number 4 when they overtake Albertsons. And they had the same epiphany as Walmart did 30 years ago. If you want to be the world's number 1 retailer, you've got to be the number 1 grocer. And Alina Khan herself called Amazon a rival grocer in a New York Times op-ed that she wrote in June of 17 when they bought Whole Foods. And she was very prescient, just as you point out, in predicting just how important Amazon was going to be and just how detrimental they were going to be to regional grocers like Kroger and Albertsons.
If the Kroger-Albertsons deal were to go through, I know that you anticipate that leading to lower prices and a protection of jobs. Talk me through the kind of operationalize that for me. How does that hit the consumer? If that deal does go through, how does that actually make my $5 avocados a little bit more affordable for me?
Sure. Well, Kroger has said they're going to invest, as I say, several $100 million day one. And the reason they can comfortably say that, beyond the fact that they've done it consistently company-wide and with acquisitions over the last 20 plus years, is because with mergers in the grocery industry, and I've been doing this well over 20 years myself, you get savings in procurement, in systems, in logistics, in various corporate contracts. And so it enables a company, if they're doing the right thing by their consumers, to pass those cost savings on. And that has been Kroger's business model consistently for the last 20 years.
Solomon partners Scott Moses, along with Yahoo Finance and Madison Mills. We're going to have to leave the conversation there. We do need to figure out why Maddie's paying $5 for avocados here in a moment. I mean, my last one was $2.79, I think. Thanks so much for taking the time here today, Scott.
Thanks for having me. Take care.